Welcome to a new episode of Podcast Infinity. In 2022, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, reviewed preparations in Grass Valley for the state's response to the annual wildfire season. For those who may not know, California is one of the U.S. states most frequently affected by seasonal wildfires. As a result, the state has developed the largest aerial firefighting fleet in the world. It also employs one of the highest numbers of firefighters in the country, offering them some of the highest average salaries in the United States. Additionally, California uses advanced and diverse technologies to monitor wildfires, including satellites, artificial intelligence, cameras, and drones. The state also utilizes highly sophisticated techniques to control and extinguish major fires. In fact, California has been collaborating with Lockheed Martin, the world's largest defense contractor, to integrate military-grade technologies for faster wildfire detection and suppression. When it comes to AI technologies, their approach is straightforward. They train an AI model to analyze video feeds from cameras across the state, detect early signs of fires, and alert the emergency system. This enables human firefighting teams to respond quickly and extinguish the fire before it spreads and becomes a disaster. Since the summer of 2023, California's Fire Management Authority has relied on a statewide network of over 1,100 video cameras, accessible to the public through the Alert California website. This network operates with a specialized AI system developed by the University of California, San Diego. This system has proven to be 30% more effective than traditional methods. But, as life goes, someone inevitably has to remind everyone that this system, being human-made, is not perfect, as perfection belongs to God alone. A couple of days ago, while I was filming this episode, Forbes magazine interviewed Daniel Swain, a climate scientist at UCLA, about this AI system. He explained that the major issue with wildfires is that they give you only about 60 seconds to respond. Just 60 seconds from the moment the fire ignites to when it becomes a large, uncontrollable blaze. Of course, that's an impossible time frame. It essentially means you'd need to know a fire was going to break out before it even happens. There's no other way. And that's simply unrealistic. Why am I telling you this? So you can understand what we're about to see now. Here's a view of Pacific Palisades from about a week ago. It's one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in Los Angeles, California's largest and most famous city, and the second most populous city in the U.S. after New York. And this is what it looks like now. Almost as if a massive aerial bombardment has destroyed a significant part of it. What's been happening, in short, is that Los Angeles has been burning for a week. From the time this episode was filmed, and likely still as you're watching this, the fires have continued. Why is Los Angeles currently experiencing some of the most destructive wildfires in its history? What's the extent of the damage so far? And why wasn't the city prepared for these fires despite all the advanced American technologies at its disposal? That's part of what we'll be discussing in today's urgent and very important episode. Last Tuesday, January 7th, a series of massive wildfires broke out in Los Angeles due to the strong, dry, and hot Santa Ana winds blowing from the southern part of the state, with speeds exceeding 140 kilometers per hour. These fires spread rapidly, causing losses amounting to tens of billions of dollars. Of course, I'll detail these losses shortly, but overall, it is very likely that these fires will become the most costly in the history of California. In the past few days, state authorities issued evacuation orders to more than 150,000 residents, with some estimates putting the number at 180,000. Additionally, warning messages were sent to over 166,000 others, instructing them to prepare for possible evacuation if the fires continue to expand. As of now, these fires have resulted in at least 10 fatalities, burned more than 37,000 acres, an area larger than the city of San Francisco, and destroyed or damaged over 12,000 buildings. Furthermore, more than 57,000 buildings remain at risk, not to mention the impact on power networks, which has left around 95,000 residents in the state without electricity. This prompted Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan Hochman to describe the scene in Los Angeles as resembling apocalyptic visions, saying he hasn't seen anything like it in the city since the 1990s. So, where exactly are these fires located? They are concentrated in 6 main areas, along with a few small scattered fires, as you can see on the map in front of you. The largest of these fires is the Pacific Palisades Fire, which is currently classified as the most destructive fire in Los Angeles's history and one of the worst natural disasters the city has ever experienced. The Palisades Fire, as of the time this episode was recorded, has destroyed over 22,000 acres of the area and its surroundings, and more than 5,300 buildings in just 4 days. It has been contained by only 11%, meaning that California firefighters have managed to control just that portion of its spread. At some point while I was filming the episode, evacuation orders were issued for the most important areas near Palisades, specifically the neighborhoods of Brentwood and Bel Air. The danger in Brentwood, in particular, is significant because the area houses the Getty Center, which holds the largest endowment of any museum in the world, valued at $8 billion, featuring Greek and Roman artifacts. The second largest fire is the Eaton Fire, east of Los Angeles and near Pasadena, one of the state's most significant cities. This fire has consumed more than 14,000 acres and destroyed or damaged over 7,000 buildings. Following that, as you can see here, are the Kenneth, Lydia, and Hearst fires, most of which have been largely contained. Finally, there's the Archer Fire, the latest addition to the series. It broke out Friday morning in the Granada Hills area, northwest of downtown Los Angeles. It burned approximately 19 acres, and according to the Washington Post, no containment has been achieved so far. Of course, all of this has caused massive chaos and displacement. Nearly all of the city's tourist landmarks have been closed to the public, and most major events across various sectors have been canceled or postponed, including award shows, sports games, and concerts. Some flights at Los Angeles's 5 airports have also been delayed, postponed, or canceled altogether. In short, Los Angeles, a city that attracts around 50 million visitors and tourists annually, generating over $40 billion in yearly revenue, has essentially been out of service these past few days and remains so to this moment. This leads us to the episode's most critical question. How much will this disaster cost California? According to analysts at J.P. Morgan, the largest bank and financial institution in the U.S., the fires, within the first 2 days alone, are expected to result in economic losses of no less than $50 billion. Insurances estimated to cover around $50 billion. Insurances estimated to cover around $20 billion or slightly more. This, of course, means that insurance companies in particular are set to incur massive losses, surpassing the record set by the Camp Fires that struck California just 6 years ago, in 2018. Those fires caused losses exceeding $30 billion, with insurance companies covering $30 billion, with insurance companies covering $10 billion of that total. However, this narrative has shifted dramatically in the past 2 days. AccuWeather, one of the world's leading providers of weather forecasting services for both media and commercial purposes, has estimated that the current fires will result in losses ranging between $130 billion and $130 billion and $150 billion at a minimum. This means we're no longer talking about these fires being the most costly in the city's history. Rather, they are set to become the most expensive wildfires in the history of the United States. To put this into perspective, these losses will represent approximately 4% of California's annual GDP. For those unfamiliar, California's GDP exceeds $4 trillion, making it the largest of any U.S. state and ranking as the 6th largest economy in the world. Such massive losses will place an immense strain on Los Angeles's budget. The city's economy is comparable to that of a country like Poland, yet it already suffers from a host of social and economic issues, such as widespread homelessness and a significant shortage of affordable housing, exacerbated by skyrocketing housing prices across the city. Additionally, Los Angeles's most vital industry, cinema, has been struggling in recent years amid fierce competition from streaming giants and prolonged labor strikes. All this, coupled with the city's preparations to host the 2028 Olympic Games, which alone will cost an enormous sum, paints a daunting picture. These figures are by no means exaggerated. Dr. Rachel Cletus, an expert in energy and climate, explained to the Washington Post that the current economic losses don't even account for several other types of damage that can't yet be quantified. For instance, the structural integrity of buildings that remain at risk of collapse, the fire's impact on energy and water infrastructure, The healthcare costs of treating residents for both direct and indirect injuries, such as the effects of smoke inhalation, and many other currently unmeasured damages. Amid all these losses and devastation, the question arises, why wasn't Los Angeles, or even California, better prepared for the fires? This is a state that faces wildfires almost every year and has highly advanced technologies dedicated to detecting and combating them, as I mentioned earlier. The truth is, the answer to this question is complex and would require an entire episode to fully unpack. However, I'll try to summarize the main reasons briefly to keep things concise. First and foremost, the most significant factor is the rare combination of mostly natural conditions that came together to create this catastrophic scenario. We're talking about the convergence of strong, dry, and hot winds, tall, dry grass and vegetation due to months without significant rainfall, and low humidity levels. Together, these elements created a perfect storm, enabling the fires to ignite and spread uncontrollably at an unprecedented pace. This isn't just my opinion. It's what Anthony Morone, chief of the Los Angeles County Fire Department, and Kristen Crowley, chief of the Los Angeles City Fire Department, have both stated. Now, while this might sound like an attempt to deflect responsibility, it's likely not the case, for one simple reason. Kristen Crowley herself sent a memorandum to city officials just last month, in December 2024, warning that budget cuts approved by California's governor in June 2024, specifically a $101 million reduction in wildfire prevention funding, had significantly impacted the Los Angeles Fire Department's ability to prepare, train, and respond effectively to large-scale emergencies, including wildfires. Of course, there are many other factors that fire experts constantly warn about, such as ongoing climate change and the increasing number of homes being built outside urban areas. This means homes are densely packed on hills, near forests, and along mountain slopes. Evidence of this is that over 70% of the burned areas in Los Angeles County were previously identified by the state of California as zones at very high risk of wildfires. However, one of the most critical reasons, and perhaps the most important after the natural factors I mentioned earlier, is the simple fact that these fires are happening simultaneously. This situation is always one of the most vital scenarios that every fire department around the world needs to study. How do we deal with multiple intense fires burning at the same time across vast areas? The usual answer here is the pre-deployment of firefighting units near areas prone to ignition. But the problem with this solution is that it relies on a combination of factors that no one can predict perfectly, especially given the vast expanses and strong winds involved. This means the only viable solution is flooding fire-prone areas with firefighting equipment and additional crews during periods of strong winds. So, where's the issue? The cost, of course. This kind of deployment is incredibly expensive, and fire officials always face significant challenges in convincing political leaders to provide the necessary budget, especially when the probability of fires igniting is relatively low compared to the number of times firefighting units are deployed preemptively. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I just wanted to take a quick look with you at what's happening in California and its impact on the state, particularly given the size of its economy and its importance, which we've had a glimpse of together. Finally, I have a question for all of you. Do you think there will ever come a time in the future when humans can completely avoid natural disasters, or is that impossible?